resourceful personality style is very much about outcomes and getting things done. So it's related to Machiavellian personality disorder, but not at the extreme levels of it. So it's very much about being outcome focused, but sometimes at the expense of relationships. So the constructive element of it, especially in the workplace, is often the focus on long-term objectives and getting things done. The problems come in when it's getting things done or achieving objectives at any cost. So the advantage, obviously, is having a long-term strategic outlook with really clear goals and specific ideas about how to accomplish them, useful for companies, useful for teams, especially when they have set and clear objectives. The problem is when that person lacks that core empathy and ability to have respectful and reciprocal relationships with other people, and those objectives come at the expense of other people, right? So that's sometimes the person who has clear objectives but doesn't care who gets hurt in the process to achieve those objectives. Because normally in any workplace, in any team, in any business, there's all sorts of ways of getting things done and getting the stuff done that needs to happen without stamping on people on the way up, right? So in most workplaces, the best way to get things done is actually with a reciprocal, healthy, respectful relationship. And if you understand what both parties are trying to get out of the work or the job or the business agreement, you can have much more effective, long-term, successful negotiations and working relationships with people if both people's needs are being met and they're being respected and understood in that way, because then everyone will help each other out because they know it's worth their own while and it's worth the other person's while. So that's a good way to get stuff done. Whereas sometimes this high level of kind of resourceful personality style doesn't have that empathy or understanding of other people as individual people who are deserving of respect and who have needs that need to be met in a long-term, successful personal or business or work relationship. And that's just how it has to happen to have successful relationships. So you need to look at that core of empathy, right? And that's the question about whether this is dysfunctional in the workplace. You know, can someone get stuff done? It's fine to be achievement-oriented, outcome-oriented, and want to accomplish things for your team or your organization, as long as it doesn't come at the expense of other people, you know, because that's not healthy personality functioning, and the consequences of that for that person, for the company, for the team, long-term tend to be destructive, right? So not having that core sense of empathy and understanding and respect for other people has all sorts of long-term consequences and causes a lot of damage. So when I'm talking about this in fairly instrumental terms, kind of resourceful terms potentially, about getting things done, but the value of understanding other people and having empathy for other people in that process, because it is important, but sometimes looking at it in that way is useful if you're someone who's very, very kind of achievement or outcome oriented. Understanding the value that other people bring and the value of having productive relationships can bring for those long-term goals is important to understand. And so when we're looking at those area of core functioning, in this style, the kind of resourceful style, those dimensions of the self, of self-direction, of motivation, of understanding your own objectives and having realistic ones, are often very much there. Sometimes they're overemphasized at the expense of understanding other people. So that's sometimes the challenge for people who are high in this style, is balancing getting stuff done and balancing your own objectives with also other people's objectives and needs, and understanding what they want to get from relationships and work, and getting that balance right, because manipulative and exploitative relationships are never successful, never effective in the long term, as well as bad for everyone involved, because it leads to all sorts of conflict and difficulty and stress and meltdowns that are entirely counterproductive, as well as not being good for anyone involved.